Good evening, Dr. Williams. This is Charlene. This is my response to the one, um, video response one assignment to the video stages of disaster. The first question, collective trauma, is described as a blow to the basic tissues of social life that damage the bonds attaching people together and impairs the prevailing sense of community. Describe how you might interpret this for someone who just went through a disaster. I would basically interpret this as the basic blows. I'm sorry, a blow to the basic tissues of social life. This is just a huge blow, a huge attack. A disaster could be a huge attack to just basic living, just your everyday lifestyles. A disaster interrupts all of that. Things are not going to be normal for quite some time. Um, the bonds attaching people together, community, like things that keeps a community together, such as, you know, even if it's your weekly or monthly farmers market, or if it's just like community involvement, like small festivals or small fundraisers that communities may have. I grew up in a small community, and there have been times when flooding could attack the community, and there was, it wasn't easy to recover from that. And I couldn't imagine if, what those that were affected, like from huge natural disasters such as Hurricane Katrina or Hurricane Rita, like for ourselves, like I experienced going through Hurricane Ike and being pregnant, and I do remember like for an entire week we did not have like electricity. We had running water, but like no electricity was kind of hard. You know, your normal is not going to be, it's not going to be that way for sometimes, and for some people, some communities, they can bounce back. For lack of better words, they can bounce back a little quicker than those lower socioeconomic communities. Things are very hard. Things are just not the same. There's no running water. There's no electricity. Roofs could be leaking, like holes could be in the roof, like a lot of their living circumstances and their living quarters are like ruined, and they are not in the financial capacity to just recover so quickly as someone that is in the best financial capacity. So simply put, I would just say that it's a huge blow or a huge hit to the social life, the social bond, or just the community bond of a neighborhood or a community. And it may take some time for everyone to recover and to rebuild. And there are times when there may be a situation where things could be the way they were, but in most cases, it may not be. That could be for the better, or that could be for the worse. However, it there's a likelihood that it will not be the same as it was before. Moving on to question two, what kind of impact may the stress of going through a disaster have on a person's mental well-being? I personally believe that the impact would be a hard hit depending on the severity of the disaster. Um, the severity of the disaster definitely determines how one may how it may mentally impact or affect someone's mental state. According to this article that I found, Disaster and Its Impact on Mental Health, a narrative review, it says that these mental health outcomes develop various psychological symptoms such as severe stress after the traumatic experience, uncontrollable stress, and feelings of grief and sadness for a prolonged period of time, substance dependency, and adjustment problems, which affects the proper functioning of the individual as well as the community, resulting in family conflicts. The author is Makwana, and the date of the article is 2019. I find this sentence in this article to be very true. Natural disasters or any type of disaster can affect anyone that it is affect. Well, it if the disaster has affected someone in a severe way, such as losing a home, losing a family member, losing their job, that's money, that's economics. Socioeconomics. So these type of blows can definitely hit someone's mentality, and they can easily stress out. Like, what do I do if they're not prepared for these type of situations? As like, especially one in a low socioeconomic status, like if they live in what we call the projects, they're not prepared financially for a natural disaster. And like if they are moved or if they're in a housing housing holding system or something like that, they probably have no idea where their next move is going to be, and they're likely going to stress out. I know my people, like as an African community, African American woman of this community, I repeat, my people, we try to stay motivated and say things like God got me, God got it under control, when they likely have no idea. And it's hard for those in that type of situation, but this is why a lot of them turn to substance abuse, as the sentence states, substance dependency, drugs, alcohol, things of that sort. If they lose a family member, how are we going to bury them? Like, it's hard. So these are the type of impacts it can have, like a disaster can have on their mental well-being. It's definitely going to being stressed, dealing with grief, not knowing what their next move may be. And hopefully, like, especially in my community as African American community, they would, want to be receptive to counseling, because again, not much in the African American community are they really receptive of it, but it's getting better. But to answer the question, stress, depression, substance dependency, these are the type of things that a natural disaster or a disaster could affect one's mental capacity. And the last question, because I'm really going over time, the discovery process has a number of stages. What are these stages, and how and when is the counselor needed throughout a person's recovery? Now, I do remember the stages. There's pre-disaster. I did not write them down. There's pre-disaster. There's the honeymoon stage. There is the honeymoon stage. There is the disillusionment phase. This is the particular phase that I do believe, as the video stated, it is defined as when the true impact of the disaster starts to set in and hit the community. The impact is more than what the community is expected. The recovery phase and, that disillusionment phase. This is when, or that honeymoon phase, when everything is, everyone is bringing in money, sending money to help those that are struggling, help those, like, Habitat for Humanity is coming in, helping everyone try to build up and get back on their feet. And then when all of that leaves, you're there. And when you're there and you're trying to process, you have a silent moment and you are trying to process the state that you're currently in. You start to thinking, and you're still trying to figure out, like, first of all, you're like, how did I end up here? I had all of this going on, and now I'm like starting at rock bottom again, and I'm starting all over. And it's hard at first to be optimistic, and try to be positive and see a way through. But as the panelists said in the video, a huge increase of suicide attempts and depression happens during that phase. And I think that is definitely when a counselor, a disaster management counselor, is vital and very important and highly, highly needed in that particular phase, because that's when it sets in, the effects of the disaster sets in. I'm so sorry that I took so much time. Thank you so much. Have a good evening.